Good day, everybody. This is Young in California. Today we are reading from Mr. D. Harris's book, Keep on Pushing. Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. I just keep remembering cool runnings, cool runnings, cool runnings, cool runnings. It's just the weather around here is like that right now where I am in California. I am reading from lesson 1 in Keep on Pushing. Keep on Pushing. The author, Mr. Harris, says, in high school, I had aspirations of competing in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. As far as I knew, a high school athlete had never represented Jamaica at the Olympic Games, and I wanted to be the first. Now, I have to say, I just saw my neighbor who is from Jamaica the other, just the other minute, and she's doing pretty well. I love the accent, Jamaica. Mm-mm-mm. As far as I knew, a high school athlete had never represented Jamaica at the Olympic Games. And I wanted to be the first. It never happened. The Olympics came and went, and I was not any closer to achieving that goal. I graduated from high school and enlisted in the Army that year. It was now 1987. The Summer Olympics were coming up in Seoul, South Korea, and I figured that if I got fit enough, I would have a shot at representing Jamaica. I started my training in earnest, running 5 miles every morning before reporting for duty. I ran a cross country, that summer in 1987, exhausted from a long stretch of duty. I ran a cross country race and finished 14th from a field of 40. I was way off Olympic pace, but unbeknownst to me, I had caught the eye of a few people, including my commanding officer, Colonel Allen Douglas. A few weeks later, I was on duty at the battalion headquarters when the duty clerk walked in with a big stack of mail. I reached in and pulled out one piece. It was the Force Orders, which is essentially a weekly newsletter that detailed the happenings in the JDF. Scanning through it, I didn't notice anything unusual until I got to the section on sports. In part, that section read, A. Applications are hereby invited for personnel who wish to be trained for possible selection to represent Jamaica in the Winter Olympics to be held in Calgary, Canada in February 1988. B. Applicants must be in very good physical condition and be willing to undergo hard and dangerous training. It actually took me a few readings to figure out that Jamaica was about to start a bobsled team. My first reaction was not unlike that of many people around the world, one of incredulity. Do they know how dangerous that sport is? How would the team train? I doubt that I gave much thought to the fact that the Olympics were less than a year away. After I got over the initial shock, I knew I wanted to be part of the team, but I had no idea how I was going to pull it off. I didn't think I was fit enough. My morning runs were interrupted by duties, so I pushed to get them started again. At the time, I did not understand the concept of explosive speed, getting to top speed quickly, so I trained the only way I knew how. I ran. I ran hard and pushed myself harder and harder, trying to get in shape. Even though I was training so hard, I wasn't sure that I would even get a chance to attend the team tryouts. There was a distinct possibility that I could have been scheduled for duty that day, and duties take precedence over everything else. My big break came one day while I was at work. My commanding officer was passing by my office when he called out to me. This made me nervous. The last time he called me over in such a fashion was the week before the cross country race, and I ended up on the duty roster for 7 consecutive days, with each tour of duty lasting 24 hours. That is what you would call cruel and unusual punishment. That's 7 days on 24 hours. Oh my God. This time, his instructions were decidedly different and would impact my life in ways I couldn't have imagined at the time. I want you to go out for the bobsled team trials, he said. It seemed like an afterthought, an idea that popped into his head as he was passing my office. The colonel was not an athlete, although it was fun to watch him put his old soccer moves on display during the occasional matchups between officers and sergeants. He was a sports fan who hailed from the coastal town of Falmouth, about 65 miles from Kingston. Falmouth is the capital of the parish of Trelawney, which was best known for its sugar estates and sugar factories. Now it is known for its, now it is known for its yams, since its favorite son, Olympic champion and 100-meter and 200-meter world record holder Usain Bolt jokingly attributed his athletic prowess to them. It is the birthplace of other Jamaican Olympians too, including Beijing 200-meter champion Veronica Campbell Brown. It is also the birthplace of Canadian sprint star Ben Johnson and Violetta Flowers, mother of the late rapper and hip hop icon, the notorious B.I.G. Big. I don't think I fully appreciated the magnitude of the achievement of competing in the Olympics at the time. Sure, I fulfilled a childhood dream of becoming an Olympian and did it in a way that was historic, but in one sense, it was just like another tour of duty in the army. Despite all the accolades and attention, I did not see myself as a star. I was just doing my duty. After each bobsled trip overseas, I would literally exchange my bobsled uniform for my army uniform and go right back to work. To illustrate, almost 7 months after the Calgary Games, on September 12th, Jamaica was slammed by Hurricane Gilbert, a powerful Category 5 storm. The eastern end of the island was devastated. That night, I found myself on patrol on the streets of Kingston with about 20 soldiers from my platoon. As we proceeded down a main road in an area called New Kingston, I heard chattering coming from one of the premises, which was surrounded by a 10-foot wall. I lined my men up against the wall and went up to the heavy metal gate to peer into the dark interior. Before I knew it, a shot ricocheted off the gate just above my head, and by the time I could take cover behind the wall, several more shots rang out. In between the shouting and the shooting, I realized that we were being fired on by security guards from the American Embassy. I didn't even know that these premises belonged to the U.S. Embassy, and it was clear that these guards were scared out of their wits. After a few tense minutes, I was able to calm the situation down, lucky to walk away with my life. During the last few days of the games in Albertville in 1992, unknown to me, violence and tension had flared up in the garrison communities of Rima and Tivoli Gardens in Kingston. In early February, Mark Ja T. Koch was killed as a result of a dispute between rival gangs. His father, Lester Lloyd Koch, also known as Jim Brown after the famed American football player, was also a tough gang leader with strong political ties. The older Koch was in jail awaiting extradition to the United States for his role in a number of murders, drug trafficking, and other gang-related crimes. But before these proceedings could have been completed, he was mysteriously burned to death in his jail cell. It occurred on the same day his son was buried. When I returned to Jamaica, the troops were deployed around Kingston, and naturally, I traded my bobsled uniform for my army uniform and joined them. On my second night back in Jamaica, I led an operation into the Maxfield Avenue area. I was on the second floor of a burned out building overlooking Maxfield Avenue with one group of soldiers positioned to my north and another just south of my position. I had received information that gunmen used one of the gullies in the area as their attack and escape routes. At about 3 a.m., I noticed a group of about 6 men crossing Maxfield Avenue. They all had rifles and were moving towards the rear of the group that was to my south. I immediately got on the radio to alert the sergeant leading that group. By the time I could complete my radio transmission, gunfire broke out, and by the time the shooting died down, I was unable to raise the sergeant on the radio. The large open lot between my position and the sergeant's was strewn with mounds of garbage and dirt. It was pitch black. As I crawled over to his position, shouting out the sergeant's name, I was quite aware that one of the gunmen could have been lurking behind one of the mounds of dirt. I paused briefly to marvel at the kind of life I led. Only a few days earlier, I was at the Olympic Games on television in front of the entire world, and tonight I could be shot and killed in a nondescript, garbage strewn lot in a Kingston ghetto. In the end, one of my soldiers was grazed by a bullet and one of the gunmen killed. Wow. Okay, this next part is subtitled Unlock Your Potential. So I will read this part and then we will pause till next week. But this part is actually pretty long. Unlock Your Potential. A few months after the Calgary Olympics, the team began to make a series of public appearances across the United States on behalf of the Jamaica Tourist Board. JTB. It was during those trips that I began to notice that there was a big wide world beyond the army and that somehow it was possible for me to participate in it. Through bobsledding, I began to see the world was full of opportunities, but more importantly, that I was full of potential. The biggest lesson I took away from the experience of competing in Calgary is not that I can learn to push a bobsled in a relatively short period of time and become proficient enough to compete in the Olympic Games. What I treasure most from the experience is the knowledge that human beings can achieve anything they set their minds to. The fact is that you and I have more innate potential than we could use if we lived several lifetimes. I have heard it said that if you could run at 100 miles per hour in the direction of your potential, you would never be able to come within miles of it. That means that whatever you have accomplished so far in your life pales in comparison to what you have the ability to do. When you strive to unlock your potential, you will always raise the bar on your performance, or if the marketplace raises the bar, you will be able to respond successfully. As you know, the high jump is a field event in which competitors must jump over a horizontal bar placed at measured heights without the help of any devices. Although it probably occurred in the Olympics of ancient Greece, the first recorded high jump event took place in Scotland in the 19th century. That unknown jumper cleared a height. Sorry. Early jumpers used a method known as the scissor kick. This technique required the jumper to approach the bar diagonally and kick one leg up and then the other in a scissoring fashion to get over the bar. The technique had its limitations as there was only so high you could go. Irish American M.F. Sweeney developed the quote Eastern cutoff end quote by starting as if he was going to do the scissors kick and then extending his back and flattening out over the bar. Sweeney achieved a more economic clearance and set the world record at 6 foot 5.5 inches in 1895. Next came the Western roll. quote unquote, developed by another American, M.F. Horine, Horine. Using this technique, the bar again is approached on a diagonal, but the inner leg is used for the takeoff, while the outer leg is thrust up to lead the body sideways over the bar. Cornelius Johnson won the 1936 Munich Olympics. Munich is pronounced München, but Munich Olympics using this technique and set a new world record of 6 foot 8 inches. Innovative jumpers kept on pushing, or in this case, literally raising the bar. They modified the Western roll by adding a bit of speed and developed what was known as the straddle technique. As a result, by 1957, the world record was quickly raised to 7 feet. Once again, this technique proved limiting. By 1967, the landing surfaces used in the high jump were higher and softer. American Dick Fosbury took advantage of this by adding a new twist to the outdated Eastern cutoff. He he directed himself over the bar, head and shoulders first, sliding over on his back and landing in a fashion which would likely have broken his neck in the old sawdust landing pits. The Fosbury flop, as it was appropriately named, was a far more effective way of clearing the bar, and Dick Fosbury went on to win the gold medal at the 1968 Mexico City Olympic Games. Every high jumper now uses the Fosbury flop, and it has been used to break the world record and push the limits of the sport several times. The current world record is held by Cuba's Javier Sotomayor. In 1993, he cleared an amazing 8 feet 1/2 inch. 8 feet 1/2 inch. The history of the high jump demonstrated an interesting and instructive trend. Every time the bar was raised, someone developed a new technique to get over it. This speaks directly to you and everything about your life, business, career, career and family. The skills you developed yesterday will limit your potential and hence what is possible in your life, the same way those earlier jumping techniques limit the heights to which those jumpers could reach. Keep on pushing raises your expectations to become a better person, parent, spouse, manager, leader, and citizen. Okay, so we will start on chapter 3, 6 ways you can keep on pushing, next week. To be what we are and to become what we are capable of becoming is the only end in life, the only goal in life. That's by Robert Louis Stevenson, Scottish novelist, poet, essayist, and travel writers. So there are 6 ways in which you can keep on pushing. I would read Keep on pushing what KOP1, pursue excellence. KOP2, choose carefully. KOP3, take consistent action. KOP4, practice canny, continuous, and never-ending improvement. What's canny continuous? I'm just going to explain that. Sure. And then KOP5 is embrace change. And KOP6 is take personal responsibility. Now, this is a precursor to a very interesting lesson, chapter 3. Okay, we'll talk to you later. See you tomorrow. Old Kinderhook.